We're recording here on this one. Go to Do Not Disturb. I'm going to try and broadcast on this one. Nope, won't let me do it. All that work, Andrew. Had to do it all again anyway.
Yep.
Okay, well, welcome to Biblical Hebrew in Plain Language, Lesson 10. I congratulate you for coming this far, and I do think that 6 of us are going to actually finish the course.
They're on their way.
Yep, so is Chaplain Moreno.
Cool.
That light is just in my face, and I don't know that it's going to, I'm going to try and live with it. I'm going to try to use it so that it's not so dim on the video. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Hebrew construct state, but as is our practice, first let's get into the Bible itself, okay? Psalm 103, I introduced it to you 2 weeks ago, and then really should begin to work with you last week on it. Did anybody study Psalm 103 this week? That's good. I maintain and will continue to stress that this is the important part. And if you will study and memorize the texts that I've selected them for multiple reasons. One of the reasons is the stuff that we are studying is in the text. Okay? It's in the text. And so I would like for you to memorize these 4 verses of Psalm 103. Actually, we're going to memorize a lot of Psalm 103. So please, if you have any discretionary time, rather than doing homework, it's more important than homework, it's probably as important as vocabulary. Do this. Spend your time reading it, practice it, say it out loud, translate it, look at it in English, look at it in Hebrew, work through it the best that you're able. Okay, let's do the first sentence here. Repeat after me. Baraki nafshi et Adonai.
Baraki nafshi et Adonai.
Very good. V'kol keravai et shem kadsho.
Vakol keravai et shoim kadsho.
Shem, notice the sere, et shem kadsho. Okay, who would like to take a crack at what the first 2 words mean? Nobody?
That's my something.
Bless my soul. Remember, the Hebrew syntax.
Yeah. The Lord, yeah.
Okay, what we're blessing is identified by the direct object marker, Adonai. Okay, Baraki nafshi et Adonai. Bless the Lord, my soul. So the speaker is addressing his own soul. I say his because it was David. Okay? He's addressing his own soul. He's telling himself, he's telling his soul, bless Adonai. V'kol keravai, and all my inward being. See this? Right here, this patak, hey, what is that? From last week?
That is my, right?
Right, it's a pronominal suffix. It's a pronominal suffix. And all of my, this is innards, all my innards. Okay? All my inward being, all that is within me is a common translation. What are we blessing? Notice this. Where's the verb for this? Oh, it's all the way back here. Baraki, nafshi et Adonai, v'kol keravai, and then we have another direct object. Another direct object. Shem kadsho. Shem kadsho. Baraki nafshi et Adonai, welcome. Bless the Lord, O my soul. V'kol keravai et Shem kadsho. Welcome, Regis and Heidi. The subject of today's lesson is the Hebrew construct state. And surprise, let me do my best to go on file. Surprise, surprise, surprise. there is a Hebrew construct. Okay? There is a Hebrew construct. Shem Kadsho, name of his holiness. This noun is in a special relationship with this noun, which we will talk about. That is the subject of our lesson today. I won't explain it now because I'm going to explain it for the next hour. Okay? Regis and Heidi, can you try and read?
Read it?
Did you guys study this week?
Yeah. The first line a little bit.
Okay, good. A little bit's better than nothing. This is the important part. What have we got in the first two words? Baraki and nafshi.
So that first word, baraki, is a verb.
It is a verb. Excellent. What else you know?
The dot yod at the end, the hierarch yod. First person, common singular.
I love it. Yes. Baraki nafshi. What does it mean?
That's the challenging
We
part.
haven't studied verbs, but we're memorizing this text in Hebrew and in English, right? So it's bless. Here's the direct object. Adonai, right? And this is nafshi, my soul. So the writer is addressing his soul. Baraki, nafshi, et Adonai. Again, orally, everybody. Baraki, nafshi, et Adonai. V'kol,
V'kol,
karavai,
Karavai,
et shem, kadsho.
Kadsho.
Excellent. The next line.
Is that written as a command? Like he's commanding his soul to bless the Lord?
It's an imperative. Let's go with that.
Okay.
In English, it's functioning like an imperative.
Okay.
He's saying to himself. Can you order yourself? I don't know. He's saying to himself, and that's really the true meaning of nafshi anyway, of nefesh, soul, self, life, right? He's saying to himself, bless the Lord, all of me, bless the name of his holiness. Most typically translated his holy name. It's translated attributively, but this is really not an attributive construction. This is a construct state, so it is a, if you had Greek, it's a genitive construction, it is a possessive construction, the name of his holiness. Everybody good on that? Super cool, super cool. Second line, Baraki nafshi,
Baraki nafshi,
et Adonai,
et Adonai,
va'al.
Va'al.
Who knows that vocabulary word? Al. Have we not seen that vocabulary word?
We have.
I thought so. It means do not. It's a negative particle. It means don't. Right? Va'al tishkaki. That's a hard one. Tish, you see the sonnet shava, the vocal shava, and then this is easy. Tishkaki,
Tish, Chaki,
kol,
Kol,
gemulav.
Gimula.
Who can tell me why this is kol and not cow or call?
That's that funky use of the comets.
It's called comets
Hatu,
Antuv. Excellent. And it has an O sound because it is in a closed, unaccented syllable. That's the only time. And it's pretty common though, right? And in Psalm 103, all the time. You're gonna see this in Psalm 103 here and here and here and that's it on this page. But it's very common in the Hebrew Bible. Okay. Kol gemulav. Gemulav. Okay. This is bless the Lord, O my soul, and do not forget all his benefits. Who can tell me why it's his benefits?
Because the ending, the yod, nu.
Okay, so this comment hey tells you that it's plural, but this right here, this
The vav.
the vav is really, let's make it sure or a whole vav. That vav is telling you it is third person, masculine, singular. Right. Kadsho. Kadosh, holy, holiness.
Yeah.
Kadsho, his holiness. Everybody good? Good. This is a review from last week. So, can we pronounce the first two lines together? What do you think? Give it a try. We'll go all the way through. Baraki,
Baraki,
Nafshi,
Nashi,
Et Adonai.
Et
Don't
Adonai.
follow me. Do it with me. Here we go. V'kol Karavai Et Shem Kadsho. Excellent. Baraki,
Baraki,
Nafshi,
And
Et Adonai. Va'al Tishkati Kol Gemulav. Very good. Very good. In English, bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless the name of his holiness. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and do not forget all of his benefits. Everybody good? Okay. Questions about Psalm 103?
Not yet.
When I come back in November,
Better know
don't want to hear that you don't know Psalm 103. All right? I don't think I beat the drum enough in Genesis 1 to convey to you how important that was. And you guys, your homework tells me that you understand what we're teaching, and that's wonderful. Your homework tells me that you get it. Those of you who are doing homework, hey, that's good. But what I really want you to be able to do is read the Bible and not just get through a textbook. So this is the very important part. Memorize the scripture text that I'm giving you. I'm giving you 4, and they are progressively longer, and they contain progressively, they contain concepts that show up later in the book. Let's put it that way. Okay? There are some things we did not cover in Genesis 1 through 5 because you haven't covered them yet, namely verbs. And we will go back and look at those at the appropriate time. Any more questions about Psalm 103, or shall we move on? Fantastic. Here we go. The Hebrew construct chain. The Hebrew construct chain is a grammatical construction that shows a relationship between 2 nouns, generally a relationship of possession or belonging. Okay? Let's take a look. Hebrew expresses the of relationships between 2 nouns by what is called the construct chain. This grammatical possessive relationship is created by placing 2, I should have put that in purple, or more nouns side by side. That's why it's called a chain. A chain can have multiple links. A chain can be 2 links, a chain can be many links. The same with this Hebrew construct chain, is that we can begin to add more nouns in here later, as you'll see before the end of the lesson. Okay, so the noun in the front is called the construct noun. Okay? Eved. Say that with me. Eved.
Eved,
Who knows what Eved means?
servant.
Servant. Excellent. Hamelech.
Hamelech,
Hamelech. Good. So this would be translated the servant of the king. Don't worry about the article yet. Just get this, that this belongs to this. The construct noun belongs to the absolute noun. Okay? In plain English, the first noun belongs to the second noun. And that breaks down when you start throwing adjectives in there. But the construct noun belongs to the absolute noun, not the other way around. We could not translate this, the king of the servant. Okay? So the construct is first, the absolute is after that. Everybody track? Good. Okay. The absolute form of a singular noun is going to be the same as its lexical form. Okay? It's going to be the same as its lexical form. And they chose a segolate noun here so we don't have any morphology. But this will change. The shape of the construct noun is going to have some inflection. The vowels are going to change on a couple of instances. The consonant at the end of the words will change. And I just need you at this stage to be able to recognize that, hey, that noun is in the construct state. It's pretty easy to do. Don't be intimidated by this lesson, okay? I mean, honestly, there's not a hard lesson until lesson 12, and I don't think lesson 12 is hard. And last week was much more complicated than this. This might look complicated because I've got 20 slides, but this isn't complicated. and I put some purple notes, purple is my color that I've added to these slides. I just put some purple notes in there, just a couple of them, that ought to help you remember what's really important, the takeaway, so that you can identify construct relationships. Questions? Right, here we go.
I have a question.
You do have questions.
I do. Does that apply always for any two nouns that are side by side if you're reading left to right?
So, I hate the word always in biblical languages, but I'm going to go yes. Probably there's an exception out there. But if you see two nouns in a sentence, one right after the other, the great likelihood is it's in construct state. And you can tell by context for sure, and sometimes even by morphology, by things that have happened to the noun.
Okay.
Okay? A couple of years ago, I've been at a coffee shop with a Jewish friend, and we were looking at a Hebrew text. And although I couldn't read the Hebrew text because I didn't know all the words, I was able to make an ark, a box out of shittim wood, out of acacia wood. And I could recognize the sign, the grammatical sign, that the name of the wood was in construct with wood. So I knew that it belonged to that, and that does have an attributive translation value. But I recognized the construct just by the grammatical change, which we'll see. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so why is that not like ha-eved, ha-melech?
We'll get to that. I
Okay.
promise. I promise. Okay. This guy is articular, definite. It's got the hey, it's got the tak, and it has the dagesh forte. We know, by now, we all know that is the king. Okay? That should not be foggy anymore. You should get that now. The predominant suffixes from last week, that can be foggy. But you should know by now. If you don't, let me know. If you don't, come see me. Ha-melech is the king. But this doesn't say the. And it inherits its definiteness from the absolute noun. But we'll get to that in detail as we go on. Okay, let's look at some examples. Right now, I don't need you to worry about the morphology. I just want you to see how this looks in Hebrew. Okay? Andrew, would you read the first one in Hebrew, please?
Kol ha'ish.
Kol ha'ish, the voice of the man. Everybody, kol ha'ish. Excellent. Regis?
So that would be Melech Haaretz.
Melech haaretz. Excellent. The king of the land. Everyone. Melech haaretz. Okay? And this is the one on the first page. Eved ha-melech.
Eved
Eved ha-melech. The servant of the king. Heidi, would you read this?
Devar.
Let's get one syllable at a time.
Cha. Is that the cha?
That's hay.
Is it the ha? Na. Ko.
Ha.
Hanakim.
Navi. What's Hanavi?
Hanakim.
The prophet, right. Okay, so Devar Hanavi is the word of the prophet. And Yepsika, would you read this last one in Hebrew, please?
Seper HaTorah.
Okay, so there's no dagesh in the pei, and so it's got an F sound. Sefer HaTorah.
Okay.
Other than that,
Sefer HaTorah.
other than that, perfect. The book of the law. That all this slide does just shows you how they look in Hebrew. The construct is just immediate. Here's the key. It's immediately before the absolute noun.
But it doesn't look like they morphed in any way.
This one did, didn't it?
Oh, the shva?
So what's the lexical form?
That's usually a patak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that one did. That's the only one. And you'll see why as we go.
Okay.
Okay, the definite construct chain. Now this is going to answer your question. Carolina, it's going to answer your question about why wasn't Eved articulate? Why didn't it have the article on it? Sefer Hanavi, the book of the prophet. It inherits the definiteness from the construct noun.
Okay.
If the construct noun, I'm sorry, the absolute noun, correct myself. If the absolute noun is definite, so are its modifiers.
Okay.
Even if they don't have the definite article on the word themselves. Okay? This is a definite construct chain. The book of the law, notice, nohe patak dagesh. It's not articular. It is just a common noun. So, Sefer Navi, a book of a prophet. And I know somebody's going to say, how do you say a book of the prophet? I'm going to go, not like this. That's my answer. Okay? That's my answer. I would, if I was writing this sentence, probably use the word echad or achat, number one. You guys that came either on time or late, right before class, we played a very fun little video to learn numbers 1 through 10, just as a prelude to Chapel Matterhold being here next week with y'all. I'll send that video out to you just for fun. It's kindergarten level, but you know, if you sing it for half an hour, you'll know 10 Hebrew numbers. Here we go. A noun is, this slide is about definiteness in general. We've kind of danced around it, taken some stabs at it. But this, now that we have the construct state in our hand, now we can look at this slide and understand the whole thing, okay? A noun is considered definite under three circumstances. If it has a definite article, ha, malcha, the queen. Here we have devar ha-malcha, the word of the queen. Because this is definite, as I was saying a moment ago, so is the modifier. North, south, good. I see the head nods, that's good. 2, if it has a pronominal suffix as in avi, the house of my father. See, my father is a specific person. Therefore, it's definite. Okay? So if we're gonna put the pronominal suffix on it, avi, not av, avi, my father. Without that, it was just av, it would be beit av, a house of a father. But because it's a specific father, it is the house of my father. So we're going to consider that beit to also be definite. Good. And if it's a proper noun, as in Shemuel. Shemuel. Say that with me.
Shemuel.
Excellent. That's how the word that we have transliterated into an English name became Samuel. Okay. Eved Shemuel, the servant of Samuel. Does
Is
everyone
it
understand
broken,
why the word servant is definite now?
Because it belongs to Samuel. It's a guy, it's a
Right.
person. You can
So
identify him.
the absolute noun, this one's absolute because it has the article. This one has is absolute because it has a pronominal suffix. And this one's absolute because, this one's definite, it's definite. This one's definite because it's a proper noun. If you say Boston, Massachusetts, it's not a Boston, Massachusetts. There is one Boston, Massachusetts. Yes, Dan.
Will there ever be something that splits the absolute and the construct now? Will they always be right next to each other? No, you hate the word.
90%.
No, it's all right.
How about a
So-
90%
So,
solution?
yes and yes. Yes, they will always be right next to each other, but you can create a chain. If there might be another noun,
Oh, got it. And
another noun in the chain might be between the first and the absolute.
Got it. Okay.
We're gonna see that.
So like the man of the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh. The lobster of the state of Massachusetts.
Nice.
All right. A construct chain can have multiple construct nouns. There you go, Dan. Timely question.
Nice.
But there can only be one absolute noun. So just translator's trick. When you're looking at a mess of Hebrew words and you see 3 nouns in a row, find the absolute noun first and then work back. Right? And just for me. Just for me, what's the absolute noun? Okay, and now I can figure out what this construct relationship might mean. Here we go. The absolute noun is always the last noun in the construct chain. So here we go. Oh man, look at those 3 nouns. Hamelech, that's going to be the absolute noun. How do I know? It's last. It's last. 3, okay? The servant of the brother of the king. Eved, Achi, Hamelech. Don't confuse that with my brother with a pronominal suffix. That's a construct form of ach. We'll cover that one specifically in a little bit. Okay? It kind of looks like the a servant of my brother of the king. You know that doesn't work. By the way, if you're not in class taking a test with people around you, do your translation work out loud. When you're sitting at your desk, engage your ears, because sometimes I'll just like visually, I won't recognize a word because it's inflected, the vowels have changed, but once it comes out of my mouth, I'm like, oh, I know that word, and then I'm able to, all of a sudden, I can see what's happened in the morphology, and I'll recognize the form and be able to translate. So use your mouth and your ears. Engage your senses when you're translating. I'm translating early in the morning, but I do it in another room, away from my family, with the door shut. Number one, for privacy, because I do my devotional time and my translation time during the same window in the morning, and then also because I want to be speaking Hebrew out loud. Sometimes I'm praying out loud, and this is a good practice if you want to understand the Hebrew that's in front of you, pronounce it. And if you've got a big vocabulary, if you've memorized 500, 800 words, and you don't recognize a word and you say it out loud, you probably go, oh, that's a proper name. When you know the base vocabulary and you pronounce it, you're going to recognize, oh, that's a name. Because you know what? In English, how do we recognize names in the text?
Capitalization.
Capitalization. Is there capitalization in Hebrew? No. We're going to recognize it because it's not a vocabulary word. And it's in context. Right? If you see blank, the king of Hazor, whatever's in that blank's a name, right?
Yeah.
Okay, context will help a lot. There we go. The servant of the house of the king. Eved Beit Hamelech. Eved Beit Hamelech. Look at that, I love it. Okay? Somebody pronounce this one for me. Who's up? Carolina, can you do it?
Devari.
I know you know this word.
Devari Melech
Uh-huh.
Haaretz.
Are you having a hard time seeing the board?
I am.
You are, okay. Because I know you know these words.
Yeah.
I've graded your homework, so I know you know that you just can't see it well. Okay. Devarei. Listen to that. Hear that. Devarei. Devarei. That is construct all day long. They don't really emphasize that in the slide deck, so I did in purple a little later. Devarei Melech Haaretz. Now, all of these words are definite, aren't they? The words of the king of the land. But only this one has a definite article. This is in construct. That's in construct. But they are modifiers. You modify the absolute noun, and so they are definite. What are your questions? Don't ask me about morphology yet. We're going to get to morphology in a minute. What are your questions so far about the construct state? Yes, ma'am.
I don't know how to phrase this, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
So, the definiteness of the last noun is taken by every noun that precedes it?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. You just did what I failed to do and put it in plain English. I keep saying absolute noun because that's how I learned it. I'm trying to demystify language study by not using grammatical categories any more than I have to. But yes, this is the last noun in the construct chain. It is the noun to which the others belong, and they do derive their definiteness or lack thereof from the last noun. Okay? Yes, Ann?
I'm probably jumping ahead, but can that string be broken up by adjectives?
Adjectives are noun. They're nominal words. So yes.
Okay.
Here we go. We're going to get to that. The following construct change, the adjective may modify, how about that? Timely question. Either the construct noun or the absolute noun. How do you know which one it modifies? Context, context, context. Sometimes you might have to translate I always do my translation in pencil. I sometimes I'm gonna have to write down a couple possibilities until I'm sure what the context is telling me. Okay, let's take a look. Let me just read it first though. In ambiguous constructions like these, context must be your guide. Let's take a look. Devar Hamelech Hatov. That could be the good word of the king, where Hatov modifies Devar, or it could be the word of the good king, where Hatov modifies Hamelech. Either translation into English is possible if that's all you've got. Okay? If that's all you've got. Context is going to tell you what makes better sense. Context is going to tell you which translation value to choose. Who's bothered by this? Why, Regis?
I am an absolute guy. I like things to be right the first time, not choices.
Okay, but see, that's good. I like that. That brings the point. Hebrew is not an exact correspondence to English.
My challenge.
Okay? The words don't mean the same thing. Like if you say the word good, in English, the word good also means something you might buy. The semantic range of the word good in English includes goods. It's a different word, but the tov doesn't mean something you can buy.
Yeah.
But the Hebrew word tov has a broad semantic range also. You know, by good we usually mean of value, not yet spoiled, something that's still worth something that you. No, but this is kind of I'm sure it can be used that way. But this word tov, it really speaks to something being quality, even maybe even perfection in some context, right? Hebrew is an ancient language, and the vocabulary is small compared to modern languages, and so each of the Hebrew words had to carry a lot of semantic freight, right? And the Lord saw Vayara Elohim. Remember the rest? That it was good. Remember that? The Lord saw that it was good. I don't think our word good in English really captures what it meant in that context there. So English doesn't always correspond exactly to Hebrew and vice versa. And not just in terms of vocabulary, but also in terms of sentence structure and syntax. It doesn't. We have to kind of, and the problem with biblical language study at this level, and I have not surpassed this level. I don't want you to think I'm talking down from Mount Horeb, from this exalted place, is that really we're not reading so much as decoding. If you want to get to reading from decoding, you've got to do a lot of translating. You've got to do a lot of memorizing. You've got to do a lot of reading. And the time comes, and it's getting easier for me to just pick it up and read it, and I might get stuck 10 or 12 words in, have to look something up. It's getting better. It's getting closer to actual reading. But some of that is just practice, and I think the contextual clues, while you're decoding, before you're reading, it's harder. But I think we'll get there. Make sense? Again, I'm not there yet, and I'm not talking down to you from atop of Mount Horeb. Okay, here we go. Eved, Hanavi, Hara. What are the two possibilities for that? What do you think?
Evil prophet, evil servant of the evil prophet, or evil servant of the prophet.
Okay, did you apply the adjective to both in the same phrase?
No, I said or.
Okay, or
Yeah,
good,
or.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think we can say the evil servant of the evil prophet. I think this is really only going to modify one.
So how would you do that? Would you add two?
Yeah. Eved hara, hanavi hara.
Okay.
I would, so I'd stick it right in there.
Okay.
Okay?
The ha on the beginning of ra, evil. What does that do?
That makes it stand. Oh, no, it doesn't. It just agrees indefiniteness with the noun that it's modifying.
Got it.
That's all.
Which could be either one.
Because adjectives do agree with the nouns they modify indefiniteness. Good? Okay, now we get into Now we're going to get into the morphology. Please do not stress. Okay? This is not hard, and you don't have to master every little vowel change today. Have you mastered them? I have not mastered them, but I recognize them. That's good because I'm not writing the Bible. I'm just reading it. Right? If I had to write it, I'd have to have it absolutely just exactly right. But I don't write in Hebrew. Honestly, I copy in Hebrew and then I translate it into English. Right? I copy in Hebrew. I draw Hebrew. I don't really write it. Here we go. The spelling of the nouns of the construct state. Most construct nouns are spelled differently than their lexical or absolute form. Here are a few examples. Devar. Devar. You might say davar and davar. But you see what we've done is we've reduced this. Just think about it like proprotonic reduction, because the construct noun gets pronounced with the absolute noun. Okay? Torah. Torah. See that? That is always going to, I hate always, this is usually 99.5% it's going to indicate this is a feminine singular construct noun. When the ending of a feminine noun, the hey hardens to a tav and the comments becomes a patak, that's going to be a feminine singular construct noun. Everybody remember that? I would have liked to have the power to turn that purple, but I couldn't do it. My Adobe skills were only so good. I tried to turn it purple, I couldn't do it. Everybody good? All right. Of. Avi. Notice it's not avi, it's avi. The hatef hatak probably indicates that it is reduction. You know it's reduction, because that's the lexical form. You know it's reduction, but why? And the why is, in this case, is because it's construct. Okay? You'll be able to see these in the future. So the takeaway for the slide is twofold. Words are going to often inflect. They're going to change their vowels. And this one very, very reliably is going to be a second person feminine singular noun. I'm sorry, not second person, a feminine singular noun. Spelling of the nouns in the construct state. I just showed you the ones that change. Here are some that do not change. So that the lexical form is the same as the construct form, vice versa. Sus, if it's in a sentence by itself, spelled sus. If it's in construct with something else, sus hamelech, then you have the horse of the king, or you might translate that the king's horse. But notice it doesn't inflect at all. It doesn't change. No change. Melech, melech. King, king of. Some words don't. This we're going to break it down, but this slide just wants you to let you know that what we said on the last slide, most is exactly correct. Most nouns inflect, some nouns do not. Everybody good? Endingless nouns. This is when you don't have a suffix attached to the noun, pronoun or otherwise. The comments, and sometimes seri, changes to patak in a final closed syllable. Pronounce this for me, please, Dan. Mishpat. Mishpat. Somebody was talking to me about that word before class. But here is the construct state. Dan?
Sorry.
Mishpat.
Mishpat.
Okay. Am I going to notice the comments reducing to patak in a text? Maybe not. At least not initially. But it's going to be okay. Because it's going to be followed immediately after by another noun, which is going to tell me it's probably construct state. Okay? If you see that, that's an indicator. But I usually don't see that. Usually I see the construct's grammatical form there with multiple nouns. Judgment of. Mizbeach reduces to mizbach. Mizvah. Comma tertiary, change to the vowel shava in an open, unaccented syllable. If this were a seminary class or a Bible college class, I would make you know that. I would test you on that. And I would expect you at the end of the semester to know that. This isn't that difficult a class. This is biblical Hebrew in plain English, and the intent is not that you can pass a language exam at the end of your seminary so that you can move on to your PhD program. The intent is that you be able to pick up your Bible in Hebrew and one day be able to read. Okay? So the rule is a rule, but you're going to recognize it in context. That's what I want you to be able to do. Shalom, lexical form, absolute noun. There's two big words. That's the dictionary form, the normal form, and here's the construct form, shalom. So we say shalom in a sentence all by itself, or shalom Yisrael. What's that? Shalom Yisrael. Translate that for me.
Peace of
Peace of
Israel.
Israel.
One more time.
Peace of Israel.
How about the peace of Jerusalem? Because Jerusalem is what? Definite.
Oh.
Because it's a proper name. Shalom Yisrael, the peace of Jerusalem. Okay? Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Here we go.
Of Israel. Israel.
Did I say Israel? I
Yeah, you
did.
can send Israel the whole
I
time.
did. Yerushalayim, my mistake. Pray for the peace of Israel too. I will not fault you. Makom is a place. Makom, place of. Okay.
It's just a short.
All right. Endingless nouns. Both of the rules above apply in the formation of nouns in the construct state. Notice devar just gets reduced to devar. When does it do? When other times does devar get reduced like this, or a noun get reduced like this? When it's pluralized. Why? Because it becomes a third syllable back. You say, well, that's not the third syllable. Just start thinking about there's another noun that you're going to immediately pronounce. So it acts like proprytonic reduction. In fact, it is proprytonic reduction. Okay? Devar, the word of. Levav. Levav. Heart of. Okay, in one syllable nouns, there I did it right the first time. In one syllable nouns with changeable long vowels, the long vowels reduce to the corresponding short vowel. So we have Andrew?
Bang.
Bang, reducing to
Bang.
Ben.
Ben.
Ben. Remember shame and shems? We said I thought the pronunciation for shem was for shame, for the word for name is shame. We thought it was shem. I told you that it is often shem, but the lexical form is shame, and this is why. Because you know son of. That's the construct you hear all the time. Name of. That's the construct. You hear it all the time. So ben is the reduced vowel. That indicates the construct bait. Okay? How would you pronounce that, Regis?
Cold.
Cold. How would you pronounce that, Regis?
Cold.
Exactly right. Pronounce the same, spelled differently,
Comments of two.
but this is the construct state. Everyone look at this for just a second. Absorb that. See it? Everybody good? Here we go. Back to Psalm 103. Baraki nafshi et Adonai
Cold.
v'kol karavai. This is even joined with a makaf. See that? We call it a hyphen in English. This makaf has the function of causing the reader to know that, indicating to the reader that these two words are pronounced together. Now, this is a cheater. You can go, oh, I know it's construct because it's a makaf. You could be wrong. This only indicates that they're pronounced together, but it's very common in the construct state to find the makaf. Okay? This is a closed, unaccented syllable, vakol, karavai, all of my inward being, et shame, Sancho. Oh boy. You'll see that coal again and again. And it won't bother you because all of is something we say all the time in English. It won't throw you. It's going to be easy to identify. the name of, the son of, all of. These make sense, don't they? That of relationship in Hebrew is done the way we're showing you today, by linking two nouns together in a construct state. No, I said they didn't emphasize it, but here it is. If you see Sarah Yod at the end of a noun screaming, construct, masculine plural construct, just like this. Just like this. You're gonna. I put a purple note somewhere in the slide deck because I thought I must have missed this slide as I was editing. Okay, the masculine plural and the masculine dual endings are replaced by Sarah Yod. Shittim wood. There it is. And you won't miss it once you realize that that's what that's what these two vowels together mean. It means construct state, it means masculine plural, and it's all over the Hebrew Bible. Can't miss it. Here we go. Elohim, Elohei. Elohei, the God of, the gods of. Banim, B'nai, B'nai Yisrael. That's in Psalm 103. It's not in the Psalm, it's not in the verses of Psalm 103 that I've exposed you to so far, but we're going to get there. It's in Psalm 103. Feel free, by the way, to memorize far past what I've shown you already. Just memorize it. Just memorize. Wake up in the morning and pray it out loud in Hebrew, and you'll have it memorized before you know it. You really will. That verse says something like, he made known his ways to Moses and to the sons of Israel all his deeds. You'll find that in Psalm 103. Einayim. Now that's a dual, isn't it? We can identify this cluster of vowels right here, patak, and here yod as, and in the meme, this is a dual ending for eyes, two eyes. Well, Einayim Hamelech, the two eyes of the king. Do you have to put the two in there in your translation? No. You're gonna make a English that makes sense and doesn't cause people to stop and go, I wonder why it says it like that. Right?
Paralyzed.
Probably 3 eyes or 4 eyes.
Right. Well, only in kindergarten do we mock one another and call one another 4 eyes. And based on the number of pairs of glasses in my house, I have many eyes. Yes, indeed. Okay. Davarim, words, divrei, words
Wait.
of.
Say it again, the words
Devarim.
officer. No, the second one.
Divrei.
Oh,
Okay, I saw a look of shock because it didn't follow naturally, and it's explained right here. Both propertonic reduction and the rule of Shava are applied to get to divrei.
Yes, it goes back to the second syllable because there's no third one since it's not.
Well, there is. There's whatever comes after that construct state.
You're right.
The absolute noun is pronounced with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Divrei. All I really need you to get is what's in red. This is the masculine plural construct ending. Okay. But here we went from devarim to davarei. But because of the rule of Shava, you can't have two vocal Shavas at the beginning of the word, so this becomes a hirek, now divrei. If you can grasp that.
It
If
just
you
rolls off
cannot,
the tongue better, that's all.
huh?
It just rolls off the tongue better.
It does roll off the tongue better, and that's why we have the rule of Shava.
You can't,
Right, because this is a language and people speak it. And so that's why the rule of Shava exists, because, well, divrei you can say. Cool? But I want you to know, though, Sarah Yod, masculine plural ending for the construct state. Feminine singular nouns ending in ah, which is comments hey. Feminine singular nouns ending in comments hey. Change this ending to patak tav. Mentioned that already. In the construct state, and then the second rule of reduction, vowel reduction, is applied. So we have Torah or Torat. That's your clue. Construct noun. Okay? Malcha, Malchat. You see here, Malchat. You go, hey, what's funny about that? Well, it's going to be Malchat Hashemayim, the Queen of Heaven. Right? We're not talking about her.
the queen of forecasting.
We're not making a big deal of it. Queen of Fort Carson, right? Shana, Shanat. the year of Jubilee. That's a better topic. Everybody good? Okay, feminine plural. Feminine plural is easy because there's no morphology. It's hard because there's no morphology.
Say it again.
Well,
He just did.
it's easy to spell. I just did say it again. Said it twice. Okay, so I think the feminine. This is me. The feminine plural. I'm happy for hooray. There's not a new There's not a new ending I have to learn. But that means the regular old ending is going to show up, and sometimes it's going to be construct, and sometimes it's not. So feminine plural nouns ending in oat remain oat. We have to apply the second rule of vowel reduction just because we've attached it to a construct noun, but what's going to tell you the second noun? Mamlakot. Mamlakot. Kingdoms of. That'll tell you if you're super savvy. I'm not super savvy. I see this, I see another noun after it. That oat ending is construct and it's also applied as a normal plural, right? So I think it's good, it's easy because you don't have to memorize new form, but it's not so easy later when you're translating for you to recognize the little subtle vowel change from comets
To a vocal
to
swell.
Shabbat. Yes, ma'am.
We wouldn't see those things in text normally anyway, would we?
Sure. Yeah, that's the only place you're going to see this.
So if we were reading Hebrew, like let's say I went, over to Jerusalem or whatever, their textbooks would have all the vowel markings for me?
Well, the Jerusalem Post is currently unpointed Hebrew, just the letters, no
Yeah.
vowels. So I don't know.
That makes it so much easier.
The vowels do make it easier. Look, hey, if you speak Hebrew, if it's the language that you speak and think and dream in, you don't need the vowel pointings. You've learned the words and you've learned the grammatical constructions through, however many years it takes you to learn to read and write and speak and think that language. We, in the 21st century, who had this ancient text, have been granted the beautiful gift of Masoretic vowel points to help us agree upon pronunciation. Without which, we would have to spend all that time in Israel with Jewish folk learning to speak that language. And guess what? They don't speak this language. They speak modern Hebrew. If you want to be able to read this, the vowel points are great. And in the Bible text, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not teaching you how to read a menu in Haifa, right? If you go to Haifa and you're using them and you want to read a menu, then I'm not promising you that all of the grammar and vocabulary is going to apply. For instance, how do you say internet in biblical Hebrew? You don't. Right? There's not a word in your lexicon for the internet, but there's a Hebrew word for the internet, right? That's a different language. That's modern Hebrew. Everybody good? Sure, there's some correspondence. Sure, you could probably understand a lot of modern Hebrew if you have a good grasp of biblical Hebrew. My goal isn't to make you a great tourist, which I know that's your thing. I know that's your passion, is to travel. My goal is to help you read the Bible. And so, yes, Carolina, you will come across this construction in biblical texts.
Okay.
All right, wonderful. Say that for me, please, Dan.
Shemot.
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 Shemot. Very good.
Shemot.
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 Subtle difference.
A little bit.
So pay attention to the construction. Heidi, how about this one?
Yeah, say it louder.
Oh, could you, Shadot, sorry,
Shadot.
yeah,
And over here?
and then Shadot,
Shadot.
yeah.
If you say it fast enough, it's the same. Pay attention. That's the reduction, protonic reduction, fields of. That's the construct state. Barakot, birkot. That one's easier to hear.
Your coat.
beer coat. We had to reduce that because when this becomes a Shabbat, that cannot remain a Shabbat. It has to reduce. Second rule of Shabbat, it has to reduce to hearing the blessings of beer coat. Okay? And there's that same explanation there. Certain monosyllabic nouns. I told you we talk about ak later. They add heric yod to the stem in the construct state. Do not confuse this heric yod with the first person common singular pronominal suffix avi, my father. Well, you're probably going to see avi the first time you see that in the text. But my father is not likely to make sense in context if you have another noun right here.
Yeah.
I guess there might be a circumstance where it would, but we might say, my father, Jacob. And unless your father's name is Jacob or the speaker's name is Jacob, it doesn't make sense. So then you go, oh, the father of Jacob. Notice the hatef, patak. It's a reduction from the lexical form, and which is comments, both in av and ak. I'll read you my purple note. You may notice the hatef patak as a reduction, indicating the construct state. I hope that you do. But if you don't, or another noun following immediately after these words will usually indicate a construct relationship. I just don't like the word always, so I said usually. Can you imagine this? Achi Benjamin. Achi Benjamin. The brother of Benjamin. Oh, that's Joseph, right? If you know the biblical narrative. That might make you think, my brother Benjamin, and that would not be correct. Unless Joseph was writing it, and then you would need to know that the commas was there. Make sense? Good. I hope that simplifies it and doesn't muddy up the waters. Maybe you'll recognize the reduced vowel, and the reduced vowel is a sign that something has happened to the noun, and one of the things that often happens to nouns is they get put in a construct relationship. That's a clue. Okay? But reduced vowels, changed vowels aren't the only clue. The main clue is they're in construct relationship, noun after noun after noun. Okay, the diphthong, ayi, as in bayit, changes to Sarah Yod in the construct state. We've seen this a number of times, haven't we? Bayit, lexical form, Beit Adonai. In two of the texts that I've chosen for you this year, Psalm 103, no, only one of the texts. Only one of the texts. Just the 23rd Psalm. The 23rd Psalm has Beit Adonai. V'shavti b'Beit Adonai. I will dwell in the house of the Lord. Okay. You'll see that. You'll see that all the time. Usually see that. Because houses belong to people. Right? And I'm talking about, houses in general, it won't be that way. But very often, you're going to see house in the construct. Ayin, spring. Ain, spring of. Actually, I have a hard time, when I do come across that, I have a hard time with it. Because that's infrequent. I have a hard time with that one. But it's the same rules. The same grammatical rules for bayit and ayin, but my eye just doesn't grasp that. And if you know what ayin means, then you know I just made a joke. It's a pun. I did a pun in Hebrew. How awesome is that? Nobody got it. Okay. So my eye doesn't. Yeah.
Got it.
My eye doesn't catch
Got it.
that.
That's the
Yeah,
other meaning
my
of
eye
ayin.
doesn't pick it up. It's a pun.
That's why
It blows me
I
away
think
that
an
ayin is I or spring, like that's even close to each other.
Did any water come out of your eye at any point?
I cry.
True,
Yes.
spring.
There's a connection.
Wow.
Second late nouns. Did you notice the first half of the lecture, almost all the nouns that they used in the examples were second late nouns? Well, the reason they were second late nouns is because they didn't have to do any morphology, so students wouldn't raise their hand and go, hey, why is that a Shabbat? Right? Second late nouns just keep their lexical form. Too easy. Melech, Melech. King, king of. Sefer, Sefer. Boker, Boker. Na'ar, Na'ar. Let's talk about Na'ar. You don't know this word?
Boy.
Is boy the only thing they gave you in the glossary?
No, it was like young.
Shaw.
Yeah, youth and something else.
Okay. So David.
Oh, like insignificant, I think.
Oh wow.
Was on there.
Na'ar is a young person, but it can be relative.
Lad.
Okay? To me, you're all Na'ar and what's the feminine? Na'ara. Right? When Absalom, who has children of his own, so he's probably 30, rebels against his father and he's killed. David wants to know what's happened to the Na'ar, the lad. What's happened to the young man? David's his father. He's probably 30. American men get upset if you call them boys after 17 years old. They actually kind of resent it after 16 years old. But when you're 18, they're like, I'm a man. What are you talking about? That's not the case in the use of this word. So when you're reading a Bible text, don't assume it's a diminutive, not yet shaving kind of young man. It could be a young man compared to the speaker.
Yeah.
Okay? You know, old army dudes make jokes about, you know, when I was your age, right? We go, I have socks older than you, right? You know, okay? We old army guys, this is relative. It's relative. Okay, I got it. You're a staff sergeant. You've been around a long time, but so have my socks, right? You know, right? See, that's how old. See the relative nature of how old is old. In the army, we do that with old, but in Hebrew, youth is kind of talked about in this way.
Sorry, sir.
Na'ar doesn't necessarily mean a child, even though I think that's what the glossary really leads you to think.
It's not just boy, but it's younger than you.
Younger than you. So this is another example of how the context is telling you what the Bible means and what the words, how the words should be translated, much more so than your lexicon. Okay? Now, there is a good thing called the Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament. It's out of print, and if you really want it, I recommend you don't do what I have done and go out and try and buy the individual volumes. Okay? I recommend that you buy the Logos version and get it on digits for $600 and be done with it. Okay? Yes. I recommend you buy it on the digital, get in some Bible software somewhere for whatever it costs and just wince one time while you write the check and be done with it. And it has nice, long, multi-page articles about the most common words in the Hebrew Bible. You really get to dig in and enjoy understanding the semantic range and the usage of those words. But your lexicons are not going to tell you everything you need to know. But guess what will? The context. How do we learn to write the dictionaries? We studied the ancient language and derived all of our knowledge from the Bible. And even the Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament, they're going to say, well, in Ugaritic, the usage is this. In Akkadian, the usage is this. There's some fragmentary pottery that use the word like this. But they're still deriving all the English understanding from biblical sources or extra-biblical sources. In Greek, there's a lot of extra-biblical sources, and that's super helpful. In Hebrew, there's not. We have the Hebrew Bible, which should be able to tell you everything you need to know about Hebrew words. And that one's just a great place to talk about it. By the way, that little tidbit I just bootlegged completely from Dr. Barrett. I hope you guys are watching Dr. Barrett. I recommended Dr. Barrett at the beginning. I'll do it again at the end. I watched so many hours of Dr. Barrett that guess what? All of a sudden I started understanding biblical Hebrew. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a scaled down, far less qualified or impressive version of Dr. Barrett, but he tells that same thing about the word na'ar. And like me, he went on a rabbit trail in his class, so I don't feel so bad. How are we doing on time? Doing great. Okay, so look here. The plural construct form follows the pattern of malchei, the kings of. Malkim, malchei. Avadim, avadei, avdei. Servants of. I wrote, the ending Syriac yod indicates the masculine plural construct state. I did that because I forgot that other slide was in there. But that's the big takeaway. Okay? It follows the same pattern. That Syriac yod will never mislead you. Nouns ending in A. Sagol Hay. Change this ending to Sere Hay in the construct, and then apply the second rule of vowel reduction. Sade, field, sade, field, sade. That is a clue. Notice the Sere, I should say the Sere Hay, indicating the construct state. This word is in Psalm 103. If you learn Psalm 103, you can throw that vocabulary in the memorized pile. You can just take those cards out of your stack. You learn Psalm 103. It's early. No, it's not. It's Psalm 27. Sorry. Keep doing it. I did that twice today. You know why? Because I'm not in Psalm 23. My head is in Psalm 27. Kind of regular. That's it. That's 20 slides. And we are in good stead. Any questions about the construct state? Let's just do, since we have so much time, I'll turn that light off and the cameras.